everybody, I'm back. If you're new to this channel, I'm AJ. I'm that mental health chick that likes to talk about and educate about mental health, mental wellness, mental illness, promote self-care, advocacy, all that good business. And go ahead and subscribe, tell people about it. There's a lot of mental health information out there on the web, but particularly for communities of color, it is still a stigma centered on mental illness and mental health. And we just don't like to acknowledge that this thing is real. So what I want to talk about today is bipolar 2. Why am I out of breath? I want to talk about today is bipolar disorder type 2. I told y'all there are subtypes and subcategories to all this business. I did the video and I'll put the link in the description box for bipolar disorder type 1, the more manic phase of bipolar disorder. Today I want to talk about the depressive side. We hear bipolar disorder and we just think irrationality and moodiness and all that business. And yeah, your mood shift, and that's a part of it, but there's also that depressive side. So I want to talk about, put some symptoms on the screen here about hypomania. That's when you're irritable, but at the same time you're euphoric, and this is over a period of at least 4 days, and you have these symptoms lasting pretty much throughout the day, where you have a decreased need for sleep, you have an increase in goal-directed activity like working, school. Sometimes you're more productive during this phase. Risky business ventures, even sex. You have your mind set on doing something and you overdo it. You're again very irritable. Take a look right quick at these symptoms. You're distracted very easily. You are, have excessive involvement in things that have a high potential for painful consequences or that are risky, like spending sprees, sexual indiscretions, different things like that. So hypomania is that interesting one. And other than that, you also have major depressive disorder. Now with this one, you're really in a funk. Your mood is pretty much morose, and you're in this phase for at least a period of 14 days. Can you imagine just being depressed like that throughout the day, can't get out of bed, feeling hopeless, feeling like no one cares? And I'll also leave some information about this in the description box. You have what is called rapid cycling, and that's when you have any combination of different types of bipolar disorder. You probably ask yourself, who in the heck is counting all of this? 4 days here, 5 days there, within a 12-month cycle, this, that, and the other. But it could be a combination of things, whether you're cyclothymic, a very mild form of bipolar disorder, whether again you're hypomanic, major depressive disorder. You have any combination of those things. And then what we have are called mixed episode, or mixed mania, excuse me. You have those racing thoughts. Your mind is just going a mile a minute. And the thing about mixed episodes, you have, take a look at this on the screen here. You have this period where you're depressed and manic at the same time. People who experience this, they describe themselves as feeling, activated and revved up. But you have that intensity of the mania, but also the depressive moods at the same time. You probably say, how's that possible? You could be very, very manic and then feeling sad while you're very, very manic. And that's a very, very bad place to be. Been there, done that. And when they don't know what the heck is wrong with you, they say that it's non-otherwise specified. Sometimes you'll hear, bipolar type 2, NOS, bipolar type 1, NOS. And they just know that you're depressed. When I say they, I'm talking about your doctors, clinicians, the medical community. So, there's a couple of things going on. You have the rapid cycling, the mixed mania, the cyclothymia, the hypomanic, the depressive, major depressive disorder. That is, bipolar disorder is tricky. And I wouldn't wish this on anyone, because you're irritable, and at the same time you're moving at the speed of lightning with how you behave, how you interact with people, how you perceive things. Again, that definition of mental illness, really how you function from day to day and how that functionality is interrupted. how you get along with other people. That's why these are mood disorders, because it's heavily based on behavior. And sometimes, you know, you have that mindset or that perspective that, hey, you know, the world is an irritant to me, or your life is an imposition to you. And that's just no way to live. There are lots of therapies out there for bipolar disorder. And, so, you know, some of them, of course, include the talk therapy. We see that on the media, in the media, and, you know, the person sitting on the couch talking to the therapist. But because this is so heavily centered on mood, there are a lot of other different therapies out there so focused on calming the person down that they can learn how to develop coping skills on their own. And you have things like art therapy or equine therapy, music therapy. And what I love are the non-medicinal approaches. You don't need a pill for everything. Sometimes you just need to learn how to cope. And some of those things include a shift in nutrition. There's a heavy link between nutrition and mental illness, and you probably think, how is that food affects our moods? And then there's all these chemical components, this whole chemical imbalance nonsense. It just works my last nerves. But there's all these chemical components that are in the food that affects how we feel, from different preservatives to toxins. There's also meditation, there's also yoga. So there's a lot to bipolar type 2. And I know from my own experience, when I've been hypomanic, I've had a decreased need for sleep. Feeling tired as I don't know what, but I just couldn't close my eyes. Or I feel completely rested and energetic after only having 2 hours of sleep. And in that hypomanic phase, I was most productive. I did a lot of my writing when I wrote my book. Hindsight is 2020, now available on Amazon. I'll also link that. And when I wasn't writing, you know, I was able to study and concentrate even with my ADHD mind. I was able to do that while pursuing graduate school. And when I wasn't doing that, you know, I'd be up practically 2 o'clock in the morning with the vacuum cleaner singing Christmas carols. And then other times I just didn't want to get out of bed. Now, there's really no known cause for these illnesses. There are a lot of theories and speculations out there, but what is known is that environmental factors can have a heavy influence on behavioral illnesses. There are genetic dispositions. Sometimes there's just a lot of things at play in determining what mental illness is and how it develops and who it affects. Now, you'll read in some of the literature that bipolar disorder, like the onset is around age 14. That's why I'm very careful, and I kind of scratch my head when I hear that a 7 or 8 year old has been diagnosed. Children are already moody, they're already hyper, they're already active, so it's very difficult to really diagnose, and it's even more difficult to treat. You never really are cured of any of this, you just get better at managing symptoms. I live alone. I'm independent. No one takes care of me. I'm not in an institution, although I have been institutionalized in the past. I'm on a lot less medication than I have been in the last 6 or 7 years. So things are getting better, but I do have the days where I feel horrible. And when I have those days, I really have those days. So there, again, is a lot of information about bipolar type 2 as well as bipolar type 1. And what I encourage you to do is to really go back in some of the literature. When I say that, you can Google anything online. Be careful of where you get your information from. It's important to really understand and support people with mental illnesses. Tough love doesn't work. You'll hear me say it in all of these videos. So it's better to try and understand a person, and even if you don't, be that listening ear, be that rock for them, be that non-judgmental stance, as we like to say in psych terminology. But that was all the information that I had for you, and I really want you to understand some things. So just to recap, we are talking about bipolar disorder 2. You have hypomania, major depressive episodes, cyclothymia, rapid cycling, mixed episodes, and when they don't know what the heck is going on with you, again, it's non-otherwise specified. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Subscribe, tell everybody no, and come back and just have some questions for me. Let's have a dialogue. wellness wishes, and I'll see you in the next video. Be blessed.